Right, here we are again. We're on our own tonight, in the sense that it's just this channel only. It's 8:35, and we're here in the Philippines. I'm in the the region of Bulacan, and I'm near, probably 20 minutes away from Bulacan, which is not Bulacan, Ballywag, which is up the road. Now, for a number of months, we've been talking about on the channel, on both channels, about relationships. Boring, boring, and I'm sure everybody else is bored watching it. But one of the things that always seems to come up within marriages, friendships, relationships of any kind is misunderstanding. And it's quite amazing how a misunderstanding can start from a simple subject, a simple reaction, something that we as foreigners take for granted. We don't actually look at ourselves as we speak. We're not conscious maybe of our frowns, our smirks, all these types of things. And as a result, good evening, Darren, how are you? Um, Quite often a Filipina, especially Filipina women, um, can mistake what you're saying as being maybe confrontational. And by doing so, it creates confusion. And the last thing we really want in any kind of friendship, relationship, or otherwise is, of course, confusion. There's enough confusion getting to know your own Filipino because when you're talking to men, there never seems to be a reason to reiterate what you're saying. They seem to either understand what you're talking about or maybe they just go with the flow. They don't seem to take everything to heart. But I've noticed that Filipina women, tend to think with their heart. It's a very emotional thing. Hello, James. How are you? Um, Therefore, to stay in front of any kind of conversation, to be able to get your point across to them, you're always sort of in the back of your mind thinking, am I putting this the right way? You know, just the tone of your voice, the way that you sometimes say things to somebody can mean a lot to a Filipino. They can decide at that point that you don't like them or that maybe you're angry with them. And it's the furthest thing from your mind, anger or dislike of the person that you're talking to. But as a result of them seeing you in a maybe different, yeah, a different way than we're used to. I mean, talking to your Western lady friends, your friends who happen to be women, you don't mince your words. You don't have to mince your words. You can say how you feel, and most of the time they will understand what you mean. Now, of course, that comes from the understanding of both of us understanding English or the spoken language from where we come. But with the Filipino, of course, English may well be their second or third language. But again, you can know the words, you can see the sentence, and they can understand both parts of that. But of course, it's the delivery, it's the way you talk. And you have to remember that Filipinos avoid confrontation. They don't like complaining. They don't like you challenging them. They don't like, I suppose, really, they're very conscious of how we foreigners talk to them. I've got friends who are very, very loud, and when they get annoyed, they get quite upset. And to watch them in front of their girlfriend or their wife going off can be a little alarming, even for myself, to witness. You imagine what it must be like for the Filipino. They'd be thinking embarrassment, they'd be thinking, what have I done wrong? And also feeling a little bit scared of the outburst. Now, of course, most of us would understand that, for instance, if you're driving along the road and you're one of these, I suppose, careful drivers who can be easily distracted by stupidity on the roads, the occasional outburst, oh, you effing so and so, or you stupid C, or something like that, and followed with a few gestures, can seem very alarming to a Filipino. I don't think necessarily that they're into road rage, which many of us as foreigners can suffer from. As I don't drive now, only because I haven't got a vehicle, I don't ever recall getting to the point of the persons I'm describing, but they do, they do surface now and again, people such as that. And we have to be aware that they don't mean to cause offence, but that action can be very alarming to a Filipino. Hello, Cyrus, how are you? So again, it's the way we present ourselves in front of a Filipino. And if you don't understand that, they get the hump. When I say they get the hump, they get a bit standoffish. They maybe dislike you. They don't not sure whether they trust you anymore. And one thing leads to another, and you can easily find yourself in a position of that other rather annoying carry on. Hello, Rizo, number one. Good night, Bob. Good night, Bob. Okay, good night, Bob. But it's that horrible word, tampo or tamper. I'm not sure which one it is, tampo or tamper. But basically, that just means, to me, and that's only my interpretation, childishness, sulking, um, giving you the cold shoulder, sending you to Coventry, and without a reason, because you're left never knowing really what has upset them in the first place. Sometimes that can go on for hours, days, even weeks. I have known it from people who've emailed me that their wife has been in that kind of frame of mind for weeks, and he's actually considering moving on. And I used to say to him, hang in there, mate. It will stop sooner or later, because it's like anybody. When they're spoiled and they're carrying on like that, that's their way of protecting themselves from what they don't understand. And they clearly don't understand us Westerners as much as we don't understand them. So it's one of those things that we just have to get used to. I mean, coming to the Philippines is a wonderful experience for most people. Um, it's true, all of the smiling faces, the happy faces, the, the giggling children, it can't help but make you feel at ease around the place. When you come from places where you can go down the street and nobody even smiles at you anymore. Hello, Robert from the US of A. How are you? Welcome. Um, so don't don't be so keen. Don't be so quick to pass by the Philippines. Don't fool yourself that you're going to be happier in a place like Thailand because you can claim that there's better infrastructure. You know, if you're looking for better infrastructure, why do you come to places like the Philippines, Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam? There's no doubt that some things are better, but like everything, you have to weigh up the pros and cons in any country that you're in. I've always hated Canada too. What a dump place. Oh, really, Rizzo? Don't know why Canada would be like that. Share your joy. Hello, also from the USA. Your video is your voice is very soothing. Oh, thank you. And that's without my teeth. I was listening to a video I did earlier on today. I'm not sure whether I did it on a Grumpy Brit or this channel, but to it carefully afterwards, I cringed because my voice sounded like I'm talking because I haven't got my teeth yet, not for another week. It sounds very airy, but nevertheless, thank you for your comment. But yeah, I mean, what do you want out of the Philippines? I mean, it's true that there's a smorgasbord of beautiful ladies here, not only to look at, but also to enjoy their company. And the one thing I have noticed, though, I've been here 10 years, is the volume of Filipino ladies seems to be running away with itself in certain quarters. I know you in every society you'll get thin, tiny, tall, plump, and Mr. Blobby types in every group of people. But there seems to be quite a number of girls that you can clearly see that the junk food that they're eating is having an effect on their physical image. Of course, you also get what we used to get in England, which was, well, I used to see it in Australia too when I was growing up, not growing up, but in my younger days there as an adult. More and more women were putting on a lot more pounds than they probably should do. They always say that being a little bit plump was good for your health in the long run. It gave a bit more fat to live on if times got hard. Hello, Dad. How are you, my sweet? Good to see you here. Um, yeah, so I'm not trying to be harsh on women per se, because women, as they say, can have love handles and all that type of stuff, and the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But there are, I noted the younger generation seem to be coming out a little on the plump side and not being vertically challenged as they are. They're usually quite pint-sized. It probably shows more. It's funny because when you look at the ads on the TV on GMA or one of the local channels, have you noticed how sometimes they have a little plump boy bouncing around selling the product? And I think to myself, why do they use that? Is it stereotyping the kind of people that you'd expect? I mean, they may be advertising healthy milk additives or powdered milk and that type of stuff. And you have a little kid bouncing around, and he's a little Billy Bunter. You know, those that know Billy Bunter. But generally speaking, most Filipinos tend to fit in your overnight bag, so to speak. They're little Kylie Minogues or Danny Minogues, as we would see in Australia, little pocket rockets. And there's no doubt that's an attraction to many. And even when you're getting middle age to early retirement age in a woman here, they have beautiful faces and they're often very, very slim too. So it doesn't really matter because it's as a foreigner, it's actually quite hard to know who's 50. When you look at a 50-year-old Filipino, it's often quite, you'd be quite surprised to find that someone who you thought was about 35, 40 is 50, 55, sometimes even 60. So they certainly grow old gracefully. So I don't think you'll ever be disappointed with a Filipino on your arm going down the road. I think you'll feel very proud. But otherwise, why would you be coming to the Philippines? You know, I I I liken life here in the Philippines. It's a bit like life was back in the 50s in the UK. Obviously not the weather, but we'll say the summertime in the 1950s, when the weather was quite warm in summer. Pleasant evenings, cool days, and sunny days. But that's the south of England, of course, not necessarily in the north. But where you could leave your car unlocked, where you could leave your door unlocked at night. Certainly in the provinces, you can do that still. But more and more often now, with the influx of people with overseas money flowing in from maybe a member of the family working overseas, you'll find that new homes popping up here and there, or the old home being renovated to a modern state. You'll also notice that they put CCTV cameras up, and I've always thought, why does somebody put a CCTV camera up? Now, I know you're going to say, well, for security reasons. Yes, it's true. But to me, it's also telling people who are maybe dishonest that there may be something in there worth stealing. So I think if you are going to do CCTV cameras around the place, there are ones on this house here where I'm staying, but they're very discreet. You actually don't notice them there. They're not sort of in your face, great big things moving around, following you around, and you can speak into them to scare the person away. They tend to be out of out of view really as to where they are. So yeah, so I mean, I haven't actually found anything in the Philippines that is that bad that I would think of getting back on a plane and going out again, going out to make another place my home. My heart's always been for New Zealand because my son and daughter live there. One of my sons and daughters. My other two sons live in Australia, and I have a son who's now living in England. So they're spread around the world, so to speak. And with that, so are my grandchildren, except the ones in England, where they just are my extended family. My brother, my last surviving brother, lives in Hull, up in the north of England. And sometimes I might need subtitles to understand some of the locals there. But otherwise, my immediate family are in Australia and New Zealand, and of course England. But I think if I was to leave the Philippines for good, I would go probably back to New Zealand. Share your joy. I understand I've been to both Australia and New Zealand, and they're just wonderful. Yeah, I mean, Australia, a lot of Americans say that Australia is a bit like America was in the 60s too. It hasn't quite caught up with America. I hope it never really does. in the sense that the imagery that we see on the telly or the YouTube now is that America certainly has its fair share of problems, as does Australia and New Zealand. But violence-wise, I think Australia has avoided it with the tough gun laws that are there. I'm not going to get into the pros and cons of having guns like in America. America has, from the days of the old Wild West, held on to the concept of the right to own guns. So we'll leave it at that. But in Australia, there was a big gun buyback. They do say that more guns are being used now than before, but I don't know. Something about when a policeman walks down the street with a gun visible, you realise that if he's not a very good shot, you could be dead. So it's best to stay on the best side of a policeman, especially in Australia. And in New Zealand, again, it mainly plainclothes police have got guns. They're detectives and they're dealing with the rougher side of the world. But the English and the New Zealand police, as a general rule, don't carry firearms. They have special arms given to them, like armed defenders squad and special maybe flying squad type thing. But yeah, New Zealand, sadly, the politics of New Zealand and the, I think, mistaken immigration policies around the world have spoiled New Zealand. The idea that now you leave school and you get a job, it's very hard to think of being able to afford to buy a home, let alone a plot of land to build it on eventually. All the regulations that have come in to make building a home extremely difficult is a bit soul destroying. I mean, luckily my kids have all got homes of their own, and they were on the bandwagon before the tightening what happened. And one is aware that they're still paying off bank loans for the next probably now another 15 odd years. So with the rising interest rates trying to cripple them as well. So it's not the best. But here in the Philippines, of course, most people build a home from the cash that they've acquired over a period of time. Some of them get the money sent from workers overseas, members of the family, and they build a home for their family back home so that when they're ready to retire, there's a place for them to come to, which is admirable in itself. But gosh, Filipino, I do take my hat off to the fact that they clearly do, what's the word? Can't think of the word now. They sacrifice, that's the word I'm looking for. They sacrifice so much to help the family back here in the Philippines. And when it's all over, they come back only, in many cases, to find that what they've been sending back wasn't necessarily being spent on what they thought it was, which must be very soul destroying because they also work on the smell of an oily rag overseas. They tend to be underpaid and overworked. So anyway, this is just a thought for this evening, and it's now 9 o'clock. We've been going for 24 minutes, which is about the average of a thought for the day. And we've had 9 thumbs up and 12 people are watching at this moment in time. And that's brilliant. And I do appreciate everybody who's come along here. We understand that the home, share share your joy. We understand the home purchase issue too. Our mortgage is $500,000 in Washington State. It takes three of us to with generations to afford it. We are lucky to have little land as well. We run a rescue there. Yeah. Who rescued you though? Hello, Margaret. How are you? Where are your thumbs up, guys? Yes. Where are your thumbs up? We've got 12 million at the moment. That's okay. Thank you, Margaret, for reminding me. And it's always good to see you. It's funny, you know, I've been doing some simulcasts the last few days. Darren says, keep it going. John, doing a great job. All right, I'll keep it going then. It's wonderful to have found you. That's okay. So it must be pretty hard to actually find anybody on YouTube now because there's so many channels. I mean, young Filipinos, for instance, you have to imagine that YouTube doesn't pay a lot of money. It pays on views, and the views are related to the number of ads that are played on their channel. You have to reach a certain number of watch hours, and then you have to have at least 1,000 subscribers. I do believe you can start monetizing at about 500, but nevertheless, you still need quite a lot in there. And there's a lot of young Filipinos that have got their channels going at the moment. And over the last 2 or 3 years, there's been an abundance of them going around. But likewise, whether they're there or not anymore, I should try and subscribe to everybody. To be fair to everyone, we're using the same. It costs nothing to subscribe, just as long as you have a YouTube. You're signed in to YouTube, you can subscribe. And I find it really strange that people hold back in not subscribing. But then again, of course, you see some channels with like 150,000 subscribers. And then you look at the views that they've had on their live or on their videos that they do, and they might only have 3,000 or maybe 4,000 views over a week. And you think, 150,000 subscribers, but how come they don't have the views? Now you see, what I try and do, it's hard to remember them, but if you subscribe to all, in other words, you've got the little black bell, your phone or your tablet or your computer will tell you when a channel comes up, and it's up to you to notice these things. When it comes up on the top of your screen, so-and-so is doing live now or latest video. It pays to check, because if you go on them, put them on for a few minutes, see if there's anything that takes your fancy. Always, first of all, give them a thumbs up. By doing that, you're bringing new people to the channel. You might not want to come back yourself, but the point is it brings other people. It tells YouTube that more and more people are watching your channel. Now and again, I get this little thing saying, more and more people are discovering your channel. Keep up the good work. And in a way, that's encouraging. And we need to encourage others to do the same. You know, small channels start off small, but they can be very successful. We can't all be the Filipina P or Tim K or who else can we come up with? Yeah, well, they're the two bigger ones that I can think of. But it's all about content. It's about finding a niche out there. Some people just want to listen to some boring old man talk. 77 in May. But I'm always hopeful that when I talk about the things that I'm discovering. Of course, they're my experiences. And I've got myself into hot water with mentioning Americans here or Americans there. But most Americans who watch my channel and subscribe realize I'm not having a go at them. I'm just simply drawing attention to Americans who are maybe drawing too much attention to themselves here in the Philippines, which is not the best way to be. Yes, Deb, well, actually, you're growing old gracefully by your little picture. And very nice, thank you, too. But yes, we all are getting older. But hopefully, we're getting a bit wiser, not being fooled by some of the things that are around us that are there to confuse us. You know, the amount of scams that seem to be circulating at the moment. Every day I'll get, even my own telephone supplier here is always sending us messages saying, be careful, so and so is using this as a means of scamming you. Don't do that. Jerry Stanley stole this from Old Dog. Yes, I'm foreigner here in Cebu. Stole this from Old Dog. Okay, fair enough. Not quite sure what you stole. But anyway, that's okay. That's indeed. Yes, so my message to anybody coming to the Philippines is that you're going to experience something that either will delight you or it will frustrate you. If it frustrates you back home easily, if things frustrate you, I think you're going to have a hard time in the Philippines. You know, they do say, what's the main requirement to coming to the Philippines? Well, I suppose money, a safe airline, and most importantly, patience. If you don't have patience, you can't sit there and button your mouth. Even though you want to say everything about what's not happening and why is it not happening, it's best to show a little bit of button one's mouth. You can have a moan about it to your wife, but again, if she's a Filipina, she doesn't want to hear you rubbishing her country. Because remember, a Filipino is fiercely Filipino. I remember so often Jane used to always go, something or other, Filipinas, you know, like she was so proud. She is so proud of being a Filipino. And I respect that. Again, a word that I don't like to use too often because it's been hijacked. It's being used by Filipina, especially, to keep us in line, I think, often to put us down a little bit, I think, you know, the idea that we love our Filipina, that's enough. We love her. The idea that we should be showing respect, of course we are showing respect, but to be reminded that when we do something that's maybe not being respectful, I think we're all old enough, most of us, to know that in most cases is not what respect is about. Taking the mickey out of somebody is not being disrespectful if it's done in fun and in jest and within maybe the four walls of your home. Doing something a different way is not being disrespectful. It's a learning process for both of us. It's not just for one. Truly progressive foreigner, question mark, foreigner. Who is a foreigner? Yes, who is a foreigner? Somebody from somewhere else apart from here. Poor, foreigner, foreigner. Yes. Yep. I tell others age is only a state of mind. Yes, it is a state of mind. Deb, I mean, Actually, I wonder if Deb has got the same name as my first wife, Debbie or Deborah. But Thomas Fairley, hello, mate. Hello, Thomas. And hello again to Truly Progressive. I saw you on Ian's channel a while ago with a young lady, Erica. Lovely smile, but I think a lot of people think she's maybe something she isn't. Again, we spend too much time judging the look of other people and suggesting. I mean, there are a lot of women here that have tattoos, and there is a connotation here that if the woman has got lots of tattoos, she's led a pretty rough life. It's debatable in this age. Well, body art, I think they call it. I find it myself personally. I think a woman's beautiful in her rawest sense. Why she then needs to paint pictures all over herself, which she can't change easily or cheaply, doesn't seem much point because I was watching a channel the other day that what do they call it? Not summertime. Oh, it's on GM TV, and they've got a talent show where everybody sings, and obviously at the end of the show, at the end of the series, hopefully they'll end up with a winner, and that person will probably become a household name here in the Philippines. But there are a number of women on there that are really, really stunning looking women. Okay, a little bit on the plump side, but apart from that, they've got beautiful voices. And they're absolutely covered in tattoos. And I think, oh, such a pity. Now, of course, if you're a bikie and a rocker or a guy who's really into, what do they call it, hot rodding and things like that, that kind of looks okay. But I don't know. There are people, what's it, Pink? I think she's got tattoos all over her. Lady Gaga, I believe, has got tattoos on her too. It's just one of these things. The image of somebody like, what's her name? Taylor Swift. I don't think she has anything. Maybe she's got a little dove on her ankle or something like that. Who knows? You chopped off your hair. It looks good too, though longer is kinder to us old folk. I feel, well, actually, I was saying to someone today, it's actually growing back in just a week. It's all falling forward now, and the sides are filling out already. And as I said, within another 4 weeks, I should have a fair old crop of hair back on there. But my fault. Somebody said, "Can you do your hair?" And I said, "Oh, okay." So I picked up what I call the dog clippers because I think they're used on the dog as well. And I started to go like that, and she went, "Oh no!" So it had to continue. But that's actually how George used to do it in Nigillian. And within 4 to 5 weeks, it was back needing a trim. But within 3 months, from the way it was 2 weeks ago, in 3 months, it's grown back to not quite as bad as, what's his name, Boris Johnson in the Conservative Party in England, with his wild and woolly white hair. You remind me of the military era. Yes. Yes, well, short back and sides they used to call that. But yeah, so we just have to be. Philippines really is a challenge. It's a challenge for us. Like I've said before, I've been here 10 years, and it can be a challenge. Every day can be a challenge if you make it that way. Share your joy. Tattoos are very addictive. Once you get one, you know whether or not it's for you. If it's for you, you tend to really like them. Yeah. Well, I used to say to my son, "Oh, please don't end up with tattoos." And three of my four sons, just trying to think, yeah, no, well, at least two of them. I'm not sure about one of them. My eldest, I'm not sure whether he has a tattoo. I'm not sure if my two Australian sons have got tattoos, but my son in New Zealand, he's got a few. But my son in England, my goodness, he's got them all over himself. And they're very, I must admit, they're very beautiful tattoos. And they sort of suit his character. He's a very quiet guy. And but he's a very talented guy too. That's coming from my father's point of view. He's a chef, and he's a bit like a freelance chef. He's a what do they call them? Executive chef. So he sets menus and orders in stuff for people. It comes up with different dishes. He's been a sous chef and all kinds of, you name it, he's done the whole thing. And he's doing very well in London. And I'm not sure, I don't think he's known like, what's his name? A couple of English names. Trying to think of Gordon Ramsay. Oh, anyway, he's not that famous, but he's well known. I love different. I love different. The beautiful parts of the world. Your narrative sounds like the husband's narrative in When the Wind Blows. Oh, okay. um, pure bloods don't go for tattoos. Okay, pure bloods. That sounds a bit of a strange comment. Never mind. I'm sure it's not meant that way. My eldest, Jerry says my eldest, he has many tats and it looks okay on him. Yes, I think, Jerry, we always think our children look great. Looking sharp. I don't think I look sharp. I look better when I got my teeth in. At the moment, I did a little video this morning just for myself because I'm somewhat shocked every time I look in the mirror at the moment and I see how rubbery I can make my face look. And when I'm actually lying down and I've got the camera in front of me like this, because you're sort of like, you're looking at you from this level. My God, I look like death warmed up. But I sit there and I made all these stupid faces. And I thought, shall I make a short of that? No, don't think so. I think I've made a fool of myself already by continuing to do these videos without my teeth. But there again, for many, many years, I've had people comment on my teeth. Some nice comments have been, well, he's English, that's the way things are. Not really, it's just that I let myself go, simple as that. And I hope that I won't do that in the future. And who knows how long the future will be. Hello, Ben in Cebu. How are you? Good evening, mate. Good evening, mate. I'm old school. I don't do tats. I've got birthmarks. Right. Okay. We won't ask you where they are, Deb. I'm sure they're in nice places. But yeah, my son's got a birthmark. Come to think of it, yeah, it's got like it's on his tummy, and it looks like a Batman image, sort of like a Batman image. And I used to think, well, as he gets older, it's going to shrink, but it stayed the same size. So it's a bit like it's not you can't touch it and feel any difference. It's just like a port wine thing. It's only about I don't know inch across, inch and a half, maybe an inch high, but it's nothing. But did I go mad at him when he put his son's first name across his tummy in bold Roman italics. Oh, and I used to say, why did you do that? And then, of course, they invented high waist um, swimming tops, a bit like jocks, you know. So, of course, he can hide that now, but oh my goodness, he's got to live with that for all his life. And yet, you see in New Zealand, Maori, which is the local native of New Zealand, Moriori and the Maori. The Maori, the women have tattoos on their face. They call it moku and moku or moko. And it's often on the chin, tattooed like that. And on a very serene and proud looking Maori woman, you don't think anything of it. You know it's a cultural thing. And when you see a lovely old lived in face of a Maori woman and she has her moku on her face, you have respect for her. You know, it's not seen the same way as the connotation of a loose woman, as often is the case by some people. Not all think that, but a lot do. But those who often say, well, I'll just have a little so and so on my neck or on my ankle, a little heart or a little swift. You know, when I grew up, of course, a lot of men were in the sea, merchant navy, and they had an anchor or something saying mum and dad on their elbow, on their arm. That's cool. Where are we? I'm rather conservative in practice, but I have three tattoos and hope to get more. I studied with the Maori and hope to get a moku soon. Oh, there you are. I've just been talking about that. I didn't even read that. Yes. Now, here we are. I'm having naughty thoughts. Where are we? Deb said, it's okay. I'm up front. One's right above my breastbone, right where it looked like a bullet might hit. Ooh, interesting. That's cool. Jerry says, got uncle died 40 years ago, had a birthmark, looked like a cornflake. Why did I remember that? Because we remember. When we get older, we remember these rather useless information, but they stay with us. I always remember the smell when I was young, at 18, 19 in New Zealand, down in Newmarket, there were big timber mills down there, and the smell of the sawdust always stayed with me. I love that smell. Maybe that's why I became a carpenter for a long, long time. I would honour to be wear one. Mine is it's perfect, tiny round ball, low on my chest. Round ball, low on my chest. Right. Oh. The mind intrigues. No, come on, Ben. She's not going to show you. She's only going to show me. Because I'm old enough to just say, oh, wow, that's interesting. And that's as far as it goes, isn't it, Deb? Of course. Naughty thoughts are just fine. Keep smiling. Yes. Jesus Christ. Oh, my, Jesus Christ. I like that as a handle. That's a very funny handle. Nothing against the church. Hello, sir. Stay healthy. I like that. Jesus Christ. It speaks clearer that you are alive still. Yes, it does. Um, well, that reminds me of a joke, Ted. I like to fart because when I fart, I know I'm alive. Sick joke, never mind. Oh, look, and the next one. Yeah, the smell of Australia once you get off the plane made me cry. The light citrus in the air, maybe eucalyptus. I was going to say eucalyptus is wonderful. Yeah, there's something about the bush in Australia we call home for sure. Can't remember yesterday, but 40 years ago it's clear. Yes. But it's funny though, Jerry, how many times we remember things that, um, it's so much useless information. They just pop up from miles away. One of the things that always amazes me that sometimes when I'm maybe, I suppose, showing off, but often I might say, yes, buongiorno, buongiorno, signor, or bonjour, monsieur. French, Italian comes back to me just like that, as if I've never forgotten it. But that's because when I was young, my mother and my father took us for very long holidays in Europe every year. And my mother had um, hotel interests in Jesolo near Venice. And we had friends down in the south of France above Marseille. And I think also there were some friends that were near Nice. So we spent a lot of time there, but the language always came like un gelato crema prego, which is please may I have one vanilla ice cream in Italian. But of course, kids learn these things, but they stick in your mind all these years later. And I was waffling on about some language that I knew, and oh, that's right. Somebody had said something to a friend here, and they said it in Italian, so I translated it for her. And I thought, where the hell did I get all that from? And then just it comes from nowhere. And like you say, the smell of eucalyptus as you got off the plane. I always remember when I got off the plane in Australia, that feeling of surround the sound heat. And it was so hot in Sydney when I arrived that it used to burn my nostrils as I breathed. Obviously, later on in life, it didn't affect. Jesus Christ, that sounds very Irish, actually. How old are you, old man? Oh well, hang on. Oh, sorry. What was the question? I'm 76, and I'll be 77 in May. That was a joke too, by the way. Jesus Christ. Hello, Ben and Shibu, laughing. Um, are you are you delinquent in attending a church? Delinquent? How? Gee, Jesus Christ! You're not having a go at me now, are you? As he tries to put on an Irish accent. I go to church occasionally. I know I will go to church eventually. Yeah, because I paid for my funeral cover, and maybe because I want to get married eventually. How about that? You've done that double. Are you seeing double today, Jesus Christ? You've asked me that question twice. Oh, reality is where people we love together in chat, friends around the world. Yes, it is. Well, in a way, these are a bit like pen pals, aren't they? A bit like how we used to have pen pals years ago. Darren Thomas, great show, John. Take care. Always keep smiling. Well, I will only when I get my teeth though. I'll do plenty of that, and then I can show you my new ones. How wonderful long holidays in Europe. What an amazing experience it was. It has been, and I do appreciate it. I took my last wife, the wife of my last son, Adam. We went for 3 months in a camper van around Europe, and it was great showing her all the places that I'd spent my childhood at, and also showing my son, even though he was only 6 months old. But later on, I did get to show him when he was 16, where we went around to Europe a lot too. I remember Spanish, but can't remember Cubano, Cubano stuff. That's right. They say it's very Spanish in sound. Have a good night, John. You too, Deb. And you can show me those things later. Joke. Ian's Clips and Bits. Hello, Ian. How are you? Good afternoon from England. England, dude. Sina Saburo. Hi. Hello, Sina. That's an interesting name. Where's that come from? My goodness, we've almost been going an hour now. Doesn't time fly when you're enjoying yourself? It's 6:30 a.m. in Washington State, USA. Good morning. Share your joy. Oh, I wonder what time it will be in America at the time, because they often say that doing your videos at 9 at night through till maybe midnight, you capture quite a lot of Americans on board. You make me feel unhappy. Your accent is really hard. Oh, why is that, Sina? Why do you feel unhappy? My accent is really hard. What accent is it that I've got? If I was to talk like that, would it make you happier? If I sounded more like an Englishman like that? I don't know quite what you mean, Sina, but I'm sure you don't mean bad. Yeah, so, guys, your accent is dazzling me. I'm loving it. Which one? 9:30 a.m. on the East Coast. Right, okay. There you are. East Coast. You're obviously ahead of Washington State. East Coast, North, South, East, West. Oh, I thought Washington State was the East Coast. No, maybe not. I've got my geography wrong. Your accent didn't have problems. It's for me. Right, okay. But Sina, where do you come from? That would help me understand. West Coast. I was going to say West Coast. West Coast and East Coast. That's why the, the period is different. Yeah, we're in Washington on the West Coast, and one nobody thinks about. Oh, the one. Oh, I didn't realise there's a Washington on the West Coast. Ah, I just I subscribed. You subscribe to me, right now, Sina. Obviously, English is not your number one language, so maybe you're getting frustrated. You're not. You just not that you don't like my accent. You're finding it harder to understand. You come from Afghanistan. Wow. So I'm not sure what the language is spoken in Afghanistan, but Afghanistan. It must be a language on its own, I would imagine. But that's amazing. Is Sina a man's name or is that a woman's name? And when you say I come from Afghanistan, does that mean you're listening in Afghanistan or are you living somewhere else? WA, Washington, D.C. is on the East Coast. Weed State is on the left coast. That's right. Blackwood, Richmore. Sounds like Australian English. You might be right there. Yes, yes, that's right. Well, Sina, you are very brave in whether you're a man or a woman to come on a English speaking channel and watch a live. So I think all of us should shout out for Sina, who comes from Afghanistan, and welcome her to or him to this channel. Washington State weather is exactly like New Zealand, wet, lush, green mountains and beautiful. Wow. Sina is a female, I think. That's what I thought actually, Blackwood. Yeah. Sina. There you are, look at that. Sina, you're famous already. And we have nothing wrong with you joining us here from Afghanistan. The other day I had some people from India. Unfortunately, they turned out to be trolls. But I think, Blackwood, where are you from? There you are. Blackwood, your chance to talk to Sina. Sina, I'm in Australia. Wow. Hello, Blackwood. Well, actually, Blackwood, Richmore, Blackwood. Hmm, that sounds like a place. If I remember right there. Blackmore, I think I've heard of Blackmore, and because there is Blackwood, isn't there? Maybe Blackwood in Richmore. I looked and then I seen her. I looked and then I seen her. Very clever, Blackwood, yes. So that's how you pronounce it, Sina. I miss Australia so much. I would live there, but family keeps me in the US of A. Well, Australia does have that effect on people. I mean, I've lived there for 30 something years in total, and it does have a certain part of me in there, but sadly, like everywhere in the world, it's the politics that stuff it up. They stuff all these countries up. When you're busy making your ends meet and doing well and doing doing your own thing with your family, it's such a pity when policies change things for the worse for everybody. Not made any easier with the recent shutdowns around the world. Oh, not a good time to have a lukewarm Coke, but it was. And I got to go there. That's in Australia for the first time at 18. It was home the minute I touched ground. Not sure what pulls me, but once I reached the outback, I was home. Yes, I do understand that. Share your joy, because I was 18 when I first hit Australia on my way to New Zealand, and the same. It's hard to put your finger on it, but when you were 18, of course, Australia was different. If you're anywhere near my age now, but something about walking over the rocks, seeing occasional blue-tongued lizard, or a couple of snakes somewhere, funny-looking spiders hanging between webs on salt bush on the ground, and the smell of the eucalyptus, gum leaves, and maybe the occasional kookaburra making a noise. And early in the morning, the sound of blackbirds, not blackbirds, magpies, being very careful to put your cap on backwards so that when they come flying around past you that they when they peck on you, they get a bit of a shock when they realise they're pecking on the wrong side, because they're always very protective. Magpies, and kookaburras singing in the morning. Always amazing. There are amazing sounds, and the sound and the screech up high on the big gum trees with all of the cockatiels or the cockatoos, the yellow-crested cockatoo. And in Queensland, when you go to Tweed Heads or surfers, and you see the swarms of budgerigars in the trees, the squawk that they make, and on the grass below where people are trying to enjoy a picnic, the droppings on the ground from all of them, all the little white dots on the ground from the budgerigars. Amazing. Paul, it's always harder to go back. Subconsciously, I think, yes. My favourite guitarist in years gone by was Richie Blackmore of Deep Purple. So I made this my name. Oh, of course. Well, I used to like, hang on, what was his name? Not Slim Dusty. Is it Slim Dusty? No. John, very well-known guitar player in Australia. Paul, cockatiels at 4:30 a.m. would drive me nuts. That's right. Slim Dusty was awesome. Yes, he was. But there's another guy, John Williamson. That's the one. Oh, talent personified, John Williamson. But then I also liked, what's that Scottish guy? Jimmy Barnes. Old Jimmy Barnes, and all the other, so many of them in Adelaide, South Australia. Maybe you remember Kookaburra Sits on Old Gum Tree song, first grade, yes. John Williamson's great, yeah. Joyous greetings for a new day. Roosters cock, yes. Roosters rock. And then, of course, you got Johnny Farnham and what was that name? Guy Sebastian. He's done some good stuff too. But what I heard song the other day was on the radio here. Amazing how in the Philippines they play so much old music, but they actually had Kylie Minogue playing the other day. Amazing. I don't think you hear too much of her now, but more from her sister. Guy Sebastian's gone all gangster now. Yes, I think he has changed a lot, and so is Jimmy Barnes. Really, a lot of them they've changed with the idea. But Guy Sebastian used to be. He did a couple of quite good albums at one point, and I've always wanted. I wanted to. Um, can't remember what the name of it, but I tried to get a copy of it, and you can only buy it on the album. And I thought it's the only one album that you can't download or listen to on Spotify and things like that. And it's such a pity because it was a good album. But I think he tried to become a bit like a Bruno Mars kind of character. And I think actually Guy Sebastian's heritage is part Indian, I think. A bit like, who's that guy? Sir Cliff Richard. So, guys, I'm going to love you and leave you. Oh, please don't go. Well, I'm going to. Sorry. Even us old guys do need to get some sleep. Guy Sebastian selected his own own brother is the winner of Voice of Australia. Really? That's a bit on the nose, isn't it? That's a bit on the nose, mate. But there again, that's how they do it. He's got part Indian in him. So, that's naughty, naughty of me. Shouldn't have said that. But apologies to all Indians. But yes, so good night to Australia, and good night to Jerry and Blackwood, Richmore, and share your joy. It's nice to have met you too, and we'll no doubt meet. We'll meet again. Da 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 da. Where does that come from? Oh, Vera Lynn. Oh, that's telling me I'm old. I remember I had an old house in New Zealand, built about 1930s, I think it was, and sort of a Art Deco style. And I remember getting an old oak, wind up His Master's Voice record player, and it didn't have any speakers. You just had baffles that you opened up like little doors on the front. And I remember putting on We'll Meet Again by Vera Lynn on an old 78 record, as it went around, and it sang there. But that house became alive again. It was almost like I was playing the music that probably once was played in that house when it was first built. It was a wonderful feeling. And I'll leave you with that wonderful feeling too. So don't forget, do come back. And as Deb says, come back soon. And thank you very much for joining me. And we'll speak again tomorrow. I'll do my thought of the day on both channels. And please support us both, because my heart is in two places at the moment. So be good. Not quite Charleston. Okay. Bye now. Oh, something just popped down. Somebody's doing a live. Loveland Filipino in the Philippines. Bye now.